Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for being here with me on the Entrepreneurial Success Podcast. Oh my gosh, I am so looking forward to this conversation. Just from the quick brief we had before this recording, I know that the audience is going to love today's episode. So for those of you listening and watching this video today, specifically, we're going to talk about networking and networking in your business, which is why I've got Lindsay here to talk to us a little bit about networking. So Lindsay, why don't I hand over to you so you can introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Gosh, thank you. And thank you for the invitation, Henriette, to this podcast. I'm super delighted to be here. So thank you. So to introduce myself, my name is Lindsay McLoughlin. I'm the Regional Director for 2 Athena Network regions in the UK, running networking groups for women. They run once a month and it's all about support, collaboration and training. And I lead the groups.
Oh my gosh. And this is how you and I met, isn't it? Through Athena. And you know what? This is one of the things that just touches my heart every time when I do networking. And we'll dive a little bit more into this when we start the topic. But you and I have already established such a great friendship, but also a business relationship just through networking. And that's where I find the power of networking really come alive. But before we dive into all of this good stuff, I want to hear a little bit about your story first. How did you get started and what made you evolve into this position of being a regional director in certain networking groups?
Okay, this is a great story. So what happened was, so I'm a mum of 3 daughters. So my youngest daughter was going into school, into reception, and suddenly I had more time. And so I had always worked in some context all the way up through my life. And so this additional time gave me an additional idea to actually use that time to earn a bit more money. So I set up a proofreading, blogging and copywriting business. And I was super proud of myself because I sat in my hallway where I am now, set up a website, created some business cards and sat there. I thought I was ready to go. Nothing happened. So somebody said to me, well, have you got any clients yet? So I said, no, but I'm all here ready and waiting, got the website and got the cards. And she said, but you've got to go networking. And I literally froze at the whole thought. I thought it sounded utterly ghastly. I thought, I'm sure I can find clients just by myself without actually creating anything else. So luckily for me, I was taken to an Athena Network group. So this is now about 12 or 13 years ago. And I joined that day. There was a buzz in the room, there was a vibe in the room, there was warmth in the room, and everybody welcomed me in the door. And I thought, I get this. What this is about creating relationships, and that leads to the opportunities. And I also thought, I also liked the women. I liked who they were, and I was fascinated that they too were sitting at home or in their offices, running their businesses in whatever shape they are. And they were looking for the same thing. They were looking for growth and clients and collaborations. So that's why I joined. So the next part of the story is I grew and changed with my proofreading business and the opportunities that came my way. And so after a while, I had created quite a community and I had created clients and I had grown myself, not just my business, but I had grown and changed just through the people that I met. So about 3 years ago, the region for Maidenhead and Marlow became available within the Athena Network. And I must admit that there wasn't an immediate race, but I went, let me have it. What do I have to do? And so I took over that region and grew it. And then in the pandemic, I took over a second region in a similar area. So I'm now running Athena groups for women. And I've put to the side the proofreading and copywriting and blogging business, but I just use those skills to attract people into the network because I actually like playing around with words. So that's my story.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And you know what? This is what makes it so powerful. And even today, when I speak to clients and they say to me, oh, I don't really think networking is my thing. It's like, have you tried it yet? Oh my gosh. honestly, I 100% wholeheartedly can say that if it wasn't for networking, I wouldn't be where I am now in my business. Not just for the business growth, but for personal growth. Exactly like you say, that personal growth that you go through and that you learn and develop, just from meeting other people is phenomenal. So I love your story, and I can honestly relate to so much of what you said because I can see myself in a similar position. But what I want to dive into is I want to talk a little bit more about the networking aspect. And I know there's people here in the audience listening and watching this video going, yeah, I'm networking, or yes, I want to expand my networking, but I don't know how. Or some people have never done networking before, and there's so many things stopping them from networking. But let's start off and talk about networking. What are the real benefits of networking, and why do you think it's important for, let's say, people in business in particular to start networking?
What networking brings is community. So it brings relationships and opportunities and experience. So if you have a business and you're looking for clients or customers, depending if you have a product, or if you're looking for clients and customers, you need to let people know you're there. And one way of doing that is by making relationships. So you go and meet people in your area, it could be locally or internationally, whatever it is, where your audience lies. Go and meet people. Don't sell to them. And this was a big mistake I made when I first started networking, was I was busy going, oh, but you need my proofreading services. I can help with that. That's not what you do. You just go, interact, build relationships, find out who they are, find out what they do, find out who they serve, and grow a relationship. And the relationships come into place. And then once the know, like, trust is in place, so follow the referrals and the opportunities. So what networking does is it brings leads for your business, it brings relationships, it brings collaborations, it brings ways of working together that you just hadn't thought of. I mean, one of my favorite stories was when I was running my proofreading business and I was getting some traction with social media. I met a lady who cooks curries. Now, that's not an immediate collaboration, but we met, had coffee, liked each other, banged our heads together, and went, what can we do? How can we work together? Then I said, why don't you cook a curry? I'll get the people, and we'll have a networking curry event. And so it grew. That story grew over the next 5 years into a bigger thing. So, but before I went networking, I had no idea that sort of story would follow. So it's actually about allowing yourself the opportunities. It's meeting the people, creating the relationships so that people have confidence in you, know who you are, so that when they see an opportunity for you, they connect you to that opportunity.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with what you said. It is about building the relationships. And you know what? I think this is where a lot of people make the mistake when they join networking, memberships or meetings or one-offs or whatever you want to call it. They go in there going, okay, how many people can I sell to today? And that is so the wrong mindset to have when it comes to networking. It's always about just going in there, being yourself, and just connecting with people, having conversations. It's not about selling your services. It's not about selling your products. That will come. But first, you have to start building the relationships. And you know what? This is one of the most powerful things. I remember when I started networking for the first time in my business, the reason why I network is, well, this was before COVID, was just to get out of the house because I didn't want to get stuck in these four walls. So for me, I just needed to meet people. I just felt like I needed to become a little bit more social again. So I started joining, and this is where I joined Athena. And obviously at that moment, COVID hit, everything came to lockdown, so everything became virtual. But I just went in and started talking to people and creating the most amazing relationships and friendships that really even evolved from some of those people that I met. And they have sent me referrals out of the blue. People have come to me that I've never even thought needed my help, that have just said, listen, I need your help. I want to work with you. But I didn't expect it because my mindset was different. I entered networking with the idea of meeting people and basically building friendships, really, relationships. And that was the foundation. And that then brought the opportunities, exactly like you say. So I think I really wanted to stipulate that when it comes to networking, and I think this takes a lot of pressure off people as well, who haven't networked before, thinking, oh my gosh, I've got to go in and sell. No, no, no. You don't go into networking selling. You go into networking building relationships and then being open for the opportunities that is coming your way, because they will come your way.
They will. And just to add to that, to sort of go over exactly what you're saying, you know, when you go into a networking group, it's actually be yourself, be the authentic you. And when I first started, I thought I presented in my first few meetings as a version of myself that I thought they wanted. It was nothing to do with their behavior that made me behave like this. It was my interpretation of how I thought I should be in that room. And it wasn't true to who I am or who I want to be. And nothing happened. Everyone was very friendly and very nice and very warm, but I wasn't getting any movement. And then one day I just went in and went, you know what? I think I'll just go as Lindsay. I hope they like it. And then in I went, and suddenly doors opened. I was invited to coffees. I was asked my opinion on things, and so the doors opened. So that's sort of one tip is just be you. Let people get to know you. And the other thing is, I mean, I remember one story somebody told me a while ago, and I love this, is that her initial thought about networking was to constantly meet new people. So she would open the door, she told me, of a networking event and go, oh no, I know all these people. Thinking, well, they all know about my business. I must be going somewhere else. But in actual fact, the magic is in the repetition and the consistency and the rebuild and the building on top of and building on top of. So you build really deep, sound relationships with those people because you keep coming and you keep learning more and more about them. But the final thing I want to add is in the generosity. Networking is actually about looking out so that you're helping them. You know, what can you do to help them? And there's a fabulous book, I must, you know, always like to quote the book. And the book is Bob Berg's The Go-Giver. And he talks about putting logs on the fire before asking for heat. And so what you're doing when you're going networking is, what can I do? Who can I introduce the travel consultant to? I know a wedding photographer, connect them up, things like that. What can I do to help? Then the heat comes back round and the opportunity comes for you. It's a generous, outward looking, helpful occupation. And you know something? It makes you feel good. When you've done something for somebody else, it makes you feel good.
Yeah. And that's the law of reciprocity. You know, what you give is what you get. You got to give first before you can get anything in return. And I agree with you 100%. It's about going in there and seeing how you can support others. And like I said, you know, you mentioned as well, be yourself, go in there, build relationships, and the law of reciprocity will come back to you. You Absolutely. Will get those opportunities. But I know, but you know what? I get so excited about this because I know how amazing networking is. But I think for some people who haven't joined networking groups or been thinking about it, maybe toying with the idea, but haven't really taken that step, is because there's some sense of fear about networking. There's this kind of anxiousness, maybe a bit scared to show up, to be their authentic self, and now go into a room of strangers and start talking to people. Well, these days it's online anyway. But what would you say about the fear that people have, or this persona that people kind of build around networking that stops them from joining networking groups? And how would you, as an example, as a regional director, support those people to help them to just go, this is amazing, actually. Why was I so worried?
That's absolutely true. There is because same thing happened to me when I didn't want to go to my first networking group either. And I sat in the car because it was obviously offline in those days. And I nearly didn't go in the door. I thought, well, nobody's really going to know whether I go in or not. And I took a deep breath and I went in, and the rest is a fabulous history. But I completely get it. There's a fear and there's an anxiety and there's a sort of feeling of perhaps not being ready and good enough. All those people in your mind are accomplished confident, sophisticated people who have just got it sussed. And do you know something? The truth is, they all started in the same place and they've all jumped through the same hurdles and they've all been there before. And you know what? They also have confidence issues or whatever it is, or threats or worries or challenges, just like everybody else. So the trick is to just go. The person in the room, the leader of the group, wherever you go, it's their role to make you feel comfortable. And that's true offline and online. They will introduce you to somebody. And then what they will do then is they will give you a conversation starter. So they will say, well, hello, this is Hem. She's a strategic coach. She knows a bit about marketing. Oh, and Hem, this lady is also from South Africa. And so then you sort of leave them with something to grow on. So that happens online and offline. What I do with ladies that are coming to me is there's something called the elevator pitch, which is another fear factor for people. It's the thought of, oh, standing up for a minute and representing and promoting your business to the room. The elevator pitch is a very, very powerful tool. And it takes practice, it takes confidence, and it takes experience, but it works beautifully, and it's yours to own and yours for the meeting. So, and that is another thing I think that keeps people away from networking. They think, oh, don't ask me to do that. So what I do with some of the women that I meet in my areas is I help them with that part before they come to a meeting, so that they say who they are, what they do, who they serve, and how they feel after they've been served, so that they have a confident elevator pitch to deliver in the room. So I help them reduce that. And it also brings traction. And people have come to my meetings and they've used the elevator pitch we've pre-worked ahead of meetings, and it's brought results. So there are ways that people running groups can look after people before they get there. And once they're in the room. Once they're in the room and they find someone to talk to, and usually that person's really, really nice. I often say, how many times do you meet somebody you don't like? Not very often. Then you've got there, and you start to enjoy yourself. It's a bit like going to a party. You're always a little bit sort of like, oh, once you get there and you're in the door, you've got a drink in your hand, you're off on your way.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It's the same thing. And you know what? That is so true, because I remember the first time when I had to go, well, this is literally before COVID when I joined. I had my first meeting in a beautiful restaurant, beautiful setting. And I was so nervous that I was going to be late. I decided to show up early. And I ended up showing up so early that I was the first one there. The regional director wasn't even there yet. So I was just sitting there all on my own thinking, if I leave now, nobody's going to even know that I was here, that I was sitting on my own for almost half an hour. And it was this weirdest feeling. But literally at that moment, then the regional director arrived. She's like, oh, you made it. And we had the most beautiful conversation. And because I was early, as people were starting to come into the restaurant, she started introducing me to people, every single one of them. Yes. And it just made me feel so welcoming. And that fear, that anxiety, gone, completely gone. But it's same like you, that first meeting, I was sitting there going, maybe I should leave right now. And nobody would even know I was here. I was sitting on my own. But you know what? This is the kind of beautiful stories you can share at the end of the day as well, because we all are human beings. We all have certain fears and certain elements of anxiety and talking to strangers for the first time. But I think once you've taken that step, that confidence immediately encompasses you, and you just feel, heck, this is possible. I can do this again. And then you do it again. You get more comfortable. Same with the elevator pitch. The same first time I had to do the elevator pitch, I got it completely wrong. Okay. And I think the regional director actually said to me, okay, you've moved on to 2 minutes now. I'm going to have to stop you. And I was like, really? Have I been talking that long about myself? But it's a normal thing. You got to practice it. You got to get used to it. And once you get used to it, it's fine. Then you just realize that now I can get creative with this. Now I can really play with this.
Yes.
And that's the same with everything in life. You've got to take that first step. You're going to realize that the walls don't cave in, lightning doesn't struck or hasn't struck. You can do it again and again and again. Because at the end of the day, the benefits far outweigh that moment of fear that you have before doing it.
That's absolutely right. And I think, with your story about how you felt with your first networking experience, my guess is that you haven't forgotten that, and you remember that when someone comes into the room for their first time, just like I do. You don't forget your first ever visit, and networkers remember that, and they reach out to new networkers to say, come on in, because you know what? Every new person brings opportunities with them. So you're delighted to meet that new person coming to the network, involve them, bring them in. They know 100 people, let's say. So, and I have a phrase which I use sometimes with my members, which is, you see 15 people in the room, I see 1,500. So that's what it is. So always welcome new people into your meetings. Make them feel at home. Encourage them to stay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, absolutely. So for those of you listening to this, and you have not been networking, or you've been toying with the idea, but you're so scared, just take that first step. Honestly, you're going to realize that it is something you should have done a lot earlier in your life, because it is really beneficial and it is so heartwarming. But you just got to give it a go. You got to try it. Now, talking about, networking in a room, obviously with things the way they are now, a lot of things change, a lot of things have gone online. And we know that the networking environment has also gone online. Everything is being done online. Zoom has boomed literally, because virtually everything is now online, including some of the networking meetings. Now, I think that there was kind of like a stigma and something to get used to as well, because from going to a location, being in a room full of amazing women in particular, networking in person, socializing, and then now still being stuck in the house, virtually networking and trying to socialize. I think that was quite a big step for some people to take, and for others it was a lot easier. But from your point of view, do you think that networking can be done virtually?
Oh yes, I do. This is, we went online, our network of 130 groups went online overnight. So Boris Johnson on the 23rd of March 2020 said, tomorrow everybody's got to stay at home. So within the Athena network, we had a plan ahead of time. So we went online Tuesday morning. We had all of our members primed on how to use Zoom. It was all downloaded, ready to go for the moment to go online. But what we recognized initially was that you could network further afield. Where before, let's say my groups in Maidenhead and Marlow might have attracted fellow members from other groups within, I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour's drive, let's say, suddenly you could network with people in Nottingham and Preston and Bournemouth and Southampton. You got more breadth. You were meeting people in different ways. And so networking has always been, and will always be, effectively an introduction platform. It's where you go to promote your business and to meet other business owners and other professionals. What you do next is go and take a relationship out of the room and beyond the room to build on it. So you go and have, we call them one-to-ones, where you go and have an hour's meeting, find out about each other's businesses and bang your heads together and think, what can we do to work together? How can we help each other? That's my dog barking behind me, or it's my little dog sitting behind me. Lost my thread. Yes, you go off and have a one-to-one and find out what you can do. So that has always been the way it works, and that still is the way it works. So you meet people online, and then you find one or two people who are interested in finding out more about, arrange an appointment and meet them offline or online, beyond. But it brings relationships that you just never thought you'd had. I mean, the chances, I'm based in Oxfordshire, and I know that you're in the West London area. You're not a million miles away, but the chances of you and I meeting are huge. Not huge, that's not what I mean. We would never have met but for online networking, and you happened to use the network to come into one of my meetings, and we met and we've worked together and we've got to know each other really quite well. And it's a super story, but it's also not very old. It was only a few months ago I met you. So that's how quick and fast online network can bring you relationships with people you immediately know, like, and trust. And in the old days, I just don't think we'd have met, to be honest, which is a super bonus for me because I've enjoyed working with you with all the things that we've done together. So that's what networking brings. It brings relationships in ways and in places you hadn't anticipated, but it also brings collaborations. I've had members of mine collaborate with members in other parts of the country and offer online workshops, for instance, together, and with clients online together, and they would have never done that in the other environments. So the last thing I want to say about online networking is it was a shock. It happened overnight, and that was a shock for everybody. It was like, oh my goodness, this isn't what we're used to. But you know, I think that had we been left to our own devices and networks and businesses had evolved over time with the new technology, we might well have evolved to an online networking platform over time because the technology was there. What happened was that the environment said stay at home, and it became illegal to meet in venues to get together. So we had to continue our business online. But the benefits have been massive. It's just what we want is the sort of the networkers to also see it and get over the initial shock that all businesses have evolved, whether it's counselling or coaching, because coaches and counsellors, for example, are also working online now in ways that are different. So networking has to move too.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you know what? Two things I want to say here on change. Change is a good thing. And like you say, you know, either networking would have gradually evolved, going to an online platform and you know, having all the meetings online. But that would have taken a time, because what you're doing is you're moving from a habit to something that is gradually taking the people along with them, saying, this is what we're going to do. So people are kind of building up to the idea of it becoming virtually. But at the same time, with the circumstances in the world, the way things have changed, yes, it happened overnight. Yes, it was a shock. But if you grasp the concept that change is good, you can really honor and see the benefits of it if you're open-minded to it.
Yes.
And with that, I wanted to say that when the networking was brought online, I mean, personally, for my business, everything was online anyway. So I thought, hey, one more thing online is not going to be that bad. Benefit here is I don't have to travel, okay? I don't have to book almost a whole day out of my diary, travel miles to go to a meeting, have a meeting for an hour or two, travel all the way back, and then spend the rest of the day trying to fit in my clients and see my clients. So for me, the benefit was, number one, I'm saving time. That time now where I would have sat in a car, maybe sat in traffic, skipped lunch because I had to rush back home in order to see a client. That's the time I can take my dog for a walk. That's the time I can actually have lunch before my next meeting. So I think the virtual benefits far outweigh some of the benefits of what was. But in particular, yes, we still need that human connection. Yes, we still need to meet people in person, which is why you said that this is the second thing I want to point at, we get to meet people from all over the world. Well, I do, but I mean, in networking, wherever you are in the world, you do get to meet people from all over the world. I know with the Athena Networking group, you can meet people in Scotland. I mean, I'm sitting in West London. I've met people in Scotland. Now, let's face it, I would have never traveled up to Scotland for a meeting or Wales or Ireland for that matter. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the benefits of meeting people, and it bridges that gap between the distance of what you would have had to go through in order to meet people. So I would just like to say that I think virtually it is one of the best decisions that you can make in order to keep meeting people virtually. And then outside of that, you and I could go and grab a coffee one day. Yes, we're not that far from each other, but we can still go and grab a coffee. We can actually meet in person. So it's about not just what you're doing in the room, but it's about the strategy that you have outside of the room, outside of the networking meetings, how you still continue to build relationships with those individuals that you meet. And that's where I find the real key is, the real relationships tend to start as well.
That's true. And I think after the online meetings and you've connected with people, meet them offline, go for a dog walk and meet for a coffee, plan what you want to do next. But I think, as a regional director, what we've said within the Athena network is the regional directors will keep their meetings online because that's where the power is, that's where the magic is,
Yes.
That's where the introduction is, that's where the learning is. Then you find your people. And then what we do as regional directors is we have offline activity as well. So I'm currently at the moment planning the offline activity I want to offer for my members offline. And that includes offline coffees, it includes dog walks, it includes co-working. Now that's really something that is so important to people who are sort of isolated, sitting in their hallway. I'm sitting here on my own, I've got the house to myself. Well, yes, I've got the house to myself, my husband's not here. So I've got the house to myself. And it's so nice to go out and meet people. That's not lost on me, it's completely understood. But I do know that it starts online and then you take the relationships offline to something you both want to do or what the members as a group want to do.
Yeah. So what do you see then, because we're online now with networking and, the environment as it is around us, circumstances are different to what it used to be. But what do you see the future for networking? What do you see from your perspective is the future of networking?
Well, I think some of that answers the answer to that sort of lies in technology, to be honest. I mean, within Athena, for example, we have two international groups at the moment. One's in Denmark and the other is in Sydney. So they do come and visit our groups because they can. And so we have these fabulous women from other parts of the world with different cultures and different ways of life interacting with us. So that adds so much to our worlds. But I said to somebody, oh, well, I won't be able to go to Denmark because I can't speak Danish. So somebody said, well, imagine if Zoom started translating in real time. Now, that is a complete game changer there, because you could be, let's say France is your target market. You could get involved with French networks translating in real time. And I think, if Athena attracts more groups from around the world, that adds even more dynamism to our network and more breadth. But what about when we can all travel again, going to Sydney with your family for a trip and meeting up with some of the people that you've met online? I mean, that's not out of the question. So that's what I think the future of networking is. It's always been about community, connections and collaboration. But what we're offering online is so much more, so many different and yet uncharted opportunities, because it's so recent and so new. I just see excitement ahead.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, no, I love that concept. And it's like anything. I mean, who knew that networking would be online? Nobody thought about that. And
absolutely not.
It just happened overnight. So that is the new norm.
Yes,
heavens know what tomorrow brings, Zoom translating in real time from one language to another. I mean, fascinating concept. When you said, I was like, I never thought about that. Hopefully you pitched that topic, that idea to Zoom.
I think it's worth it.
But listen, I absolutely love this conversation, because I do think networking is vital for business owners. For all the benefits that we said, whether it's done in virtually or whether it's done in person. But if you haven't done networking before, if you're playing with the idea, if you're scared of networking and hear so many people say to you, you've got a network, try it out. Okay, you've got nothing to lose. We've all gone through that first meeting where we're kind of trying to talk ourselves out of it, but we stick to it and we just walk in. We go into that first meeting and you'll actually see it is so enjoyable. You really, really get to meet the most amazing people. I mean, I've met people who has the craziest businesses, and I'm like, what? That's a thing? And you've got a business in that? I never would have thought about it. But that's the thing. You get to learn from other people. The community that you build around you is so fundamental. And when I say a community, remember, it's not about you building a community and walking and then selling. It's not that. It's building a community of relationships and friendships. With that, the opportunities will come. Think about what we said, the law of reciprocity. Give first and you'll get that back. So go in there, try it out, have some fun with it. I mean, like I said, you've got nothing to lose. I get so passionate about it. And Lindsay, I know you're passionate about it. So I think between the two of us, hopefully we got the message across.
I think we did.
Before we finish off this episode, obviously you've got some amazing ways for people to connect, to try out networking virtually, of course. So you've created this amazing virtual pop-in groups that you have every once in a while throughout the year, where people who've never experienced networking before can come into this pop-up and they can obviously try it out a little bit. So tell us a little bit about the pop-in. Sorry, I said pop-up, the pop-in, and how it works from your perspective.
Okay, I use these to attract people into my groups in the Maidenhead and Marlow and Southwest Oxfordshire area. So they are designed to give people a little taster, and it's also online. So some people have said to me that it's actually easier going to an online meeting than it is going to a real room door, because actually you're sitting in your own seat at your own desk or wherever it is. So it's a taster. I will help people understand what networking is. You will meet other people who are also new to networking. It's a taster. It's come and try it, come and see it. And very often from those virtual pop-in attraction events, people will come to my meeting. It's a confidence builder. So I run those for my region, but I'm totally open to any other woman anywhere in business connecting with me to say, I'm interested in this Athena thing, and I can connect them to the right people within the network, whether that's internationally or across the UK, to get them involved with networking, because it's a magical thing. You create relationships with people for business, but also for personal life. I mean, goodness, over the years, I've worked with all sorts of women for not just business reasons, but because I've needed help with my makeup or help deciding on a dress for a particular function, or because I'm not that good at bookkeeping. So you create relationships for the moment that you need them, and then they're at the end of your fingertips.
So for those of you listening, if you are thinking about expanding your networking, in order to grow your business, but equally for yourself, if you've never done networking before, I highly recommend that you get in touch then with Lindsay and have a chat with her. So what we're going to do is, she's available on LinkedIn. All her LinkedIn details will be in the show notes. Connect with her there, start a chat with her, and I'm sure that she'd be more than happy to have a chat with you to see where you're at, what is your idea, what is it that you're at, or where is it that you're at the moment, and are you interested in obviously thinking about networking? And then she will obviously also talk a lot about her virtual pop-ins, the networking pop-ins, when they are available, when the next dates are. So when you follow her, you'll see her when those details come up as well, and she'll be able to notify you. So if you want to join and just have a taster, try it out, I'm sure you can actually really, really benefit from it, and you will absolutely love the idea of networking, particularly virtually as well. So so Lindsay's LinkedIn details will be there in the show notes, and hey, reach out to her. I'm sure she'd love to have a chat with you.
I would, and thank you very much for having me as your guest on your podcast, Hen. It's been an absolute joy and much appreciated.
You're more than welcome to. No problem. I absolutely loved having you here, especially talking about a topic that both of you and I are very passionate about. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Enjoy your day, and we'll be in touch fairly soon.
Lovely. Thank you.